Chapter 8, The Aftermath. My dear reader, before we venture forth into the troubled waters that lie ahead, permit me to briefly recall the tumultuous events of the previous night, events which, I confess, still weigh heavily upon my conscience even as I commit them to paper. You will remember that Holmes, Inspector Lestrade, and I mounted a desperate midnight raid upon a warehouse in Shadwell, seeking to apprehend the elusive Shen Wu before he could flee London with all evidence of the conspiracy. What followed was a scene of violence and chaos, a pitched battle with members of the Black Lotus in their very stronghold, followed by a frantic pursuit through fog-shrouded streets that ended only when my revolver brought down the fleeing criminal master upon the dockside. Under the duress of his injury and the certainty of justice, Shen Wu confessed all, naming Sir Henry Ashworth, Member of Parliament and brother to our client, as the architect of the entire treasonous scheme. Armed with this intelligence, and having secured the Vermilion cipher from Sir Henry's own desk, we journeyed to his country house in Surrey, there to confront him with his crimes. The confrontation ended in tragedy. Sir Henry, desperate and cornered, drew his weapon with murderous intent. 3 shots rang out, from Major Geoffrey Ashworth's revolver, from mine own, and from Inspector Lestrade's, and Sir Henry fell, mortally wounded by his own brother's hand, among others. The conspiracy was ended, the cipher recovered, but the cost had been a brother's life and a family's honour forever stained. Yet as dawn broke over that terrible scene, neither Holmes nor I realized that the affair was far from concluded. Indeed, the most dangerous revelations were yet to come. Chapter 8 begins. 3 days had passed since that terrible night at Ashworth Grange, and London had been consumed by the scandal. The newspapers, though they did not know the full truth about the Vermilion cipher, had seized upon the story of Sir Henry Ashworth's death with characteristic zeal. MP dies in shootout with police. Screamed the headlines, parliamentary corruption scandal exposed, declared others. Wild speculation ran through every drawing room and club in the city, and the government had been forced to issue several carefully worded statements to calm public alarm. Holmes and I had given our depositions to the authorities, as had Inspector Lestrade and Major Geoffrey Ashworth. The official account described Sir Henry's involvement in theft and conspiracy, but made no mention of the Vermilion cipher or its significance. That information remained classified at the highest levels of government, known only to a select few within the Foreign Office and the intelligence services. Major Ashworth had been fully exonerated of all charges related to the theft in Bengal, and his military honours had been restored. But the man I saw when I visited him at his rooms in Kensington bore little resemblance to the proud officer who had first come to Baker Street seeking our help. He was gaunt, his eyes haunted, and he spoke little. The weight of what he had done, killing his own brother, however justified, lay heavy upon his soul. "Dr. Watson," he said as I prepared to depart after examining his healing shoulder wound, "do you believe in redemption? Can a man who has taken a life, even in defense of others, ever truly find peace?" "I believe," I replied carefully, "that a man must be judged by the totality of his actions and the circumstances in which he finds himself. You were faced with an impossible choice, Major, and you chose to protect Mr. Holmes and uphold your duty to your country. That is not murder, that is courage, however painful the consequences." He nodded slowly, but I could see that my words brought him little comfort. I resolved to monitor his condition closely in the coming weeks, for I feared that the psychological wounds he bore might prove more dangerous than any physical injury. Upon returning to Baker Street, I found Holmes in a state of considerable agitation. He was pacing the sitting room, his pipe smoking furiously, his brow furrowed in deep thought. "Ah, Watson," he said as I entered, "how does our client fare? His wound heals well, but his spirits are low. I am concerned about his mental state." "Holmes, the shock of what has occurred may have effects that linger for years. Most unfortunate," Holmes murmured, though his mind was clearly elsewhere. "Watson, something about this affair troubles me greatly. We have recovered the cipher and prevented it from falling into the wrong hands. Sir Henry is dead, The Black Lotus has been disrupted, and Major Ashworth has been vindicated. By all accounts, the case should be closed, and yet, I prompted, and yet there are loose threads, Watson. Details that do not quite fit into the pattern we have constructed. Consider. We have Sir Henry's confession, extracted under duress, and Shen Wu's testimony, which may or may not be reliable. But we have never actually verified that the document we recovered from Ashworth Grange is the genuine Vermilion cipher. We have assumed it to be so based on Shen Wu's statements, but what if we are wrong? What if Sir Henry was himself being manipulated, used as a pawn in some larger game? I felt a chill run down my spine. Surely you cannot mean, Watson, that we may have solved only part of the puzzle. There are questions that remain unanswered. What became of Lei Chen, the silk merchant who actually carried out the theft in Bengal? Shen Wu claimed not to know his current whereabouts, but I find it unlikely that such a valuable operative would simply disappear. And consider the timing of events. Sir Henry only located the cipher 3 weeks ago, yet the attempts on Major Ashworth's life began shortly thereafter. Why the sudden urgency? What changed? Perhaps Sir Henry feared that Major Ashworth was getting too close to the truth in his own investigations, I suggested. Perhaps, but there is another possibility, one that I have been reluctant to consider until now. What if someone else knew about Sir Henry's quest for the cipher? What if that someone was using Sir Henry to locate the cipher, intending to take it from him once he had assembled both pieces? Good Lord, Holmes. Are you suggesting that there is another player in this game? I am suggesting, Watson, that we may have been looking at the shadow rather than the substance. Sir Henry was ambitious and ruthless, yes, but he was also a fool. He left traces everywhere, made mistakes, drew attention to himself. A truly mastermind criminal would have been more subtle, more patient. I begin to wonder if Sir Henry was intended to be discovered, to be a convenient scapegoat while the true architect of this conspiracy remained hidden. Before I could respond, there came a knock at our door, and Mrs. Hudson entered with a telegram. Holmes tore it open and read it quickly, his expression darkening. "It is from Lieutenant Colonel Forsyth," he said grimly. He writes, "Attempted burglary last night. Key remains safe but house badly damaged. Fear another attempt imminent. Request your immediate assistance, Forsyth. We must go to Bath at once," I exclaimed. "Indeed we must, but Watson, this confirms my worst suspicions. The key has not been forgotten. Someone still seeks to obtain it. Someone who knows that the cipher is useless without it. And if Sir Henry did not send those burglars, for he is 3 days dead, then who did?" We departed for Bath within the hour, taking the express train that would deliver us to that city by late afternoon. During the journey, Holmes was unusually silent, his mind working through the implications of Forsyth's telegram. I could see the calculations behind his eyes, the endless permutations of possibility being examined and discarded. "Watson," he said at last, "I want you to be prepared for danger. Whoever is behind this affair has already demonstrated a willingness to commit theft and murder to achieve their ends. They will not hesitate to kill Forsyth or us if we stand in their way. Keep your revolver close at hand." I patted my coat pocket, reassured by the familiar weight of my weapon. "I am ready, Holmes." We arrived in Bath as the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the elegant Georgian architecture. A cab conveyed us swiftly to Forsyth's house, and we found the elderly soldier waiting for us at his gate, a shotgun cradled in his arms. "Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson," he said, relief evident in his voice. "Thank God you have come. The situation has become most grave." He led us into his house, and we immediately saw the evidence of the attempted burglary. A window had been smashed, furniture overturned, and books pulled from shelves in what was clearly a thorough search of the premises. "They came just after midnight," Forsyth explained. 3 men. Perhaps 4. They broke in through the library window while I was asleep upstairs. Mrs. Hobbs, my housekeeper, heard them and woke me. I came down with my shotgun and fired a warning shot. They fled, but not before they had ransacked my study and several other rooms. "Did they take anything?" Holmes asked, examining the damage with keen interest. "Not that I can determine. The key, of course, remains hidden where they could not find it. But Mr. Holmes, they will return, I am certain of it, and next time they may not be frightened away by an old man with a shotgun. You were wise to summon us, Holmes said. Colonel, I believe you are in grave danger. More than that, I believe the key you guard is now the target of a conspiracy even more dangerous than we initially supposed. Sir Henry Ashworth is dead, but someone else, someone with resources and determination, continues to seek the complete Vermilion cipher. We must set a trap for them using the key as bait. Forsyth's expression was troubled. Mr. Holmes, I have guarded this key for 5 years. I have sworn an oath to protect it with my life. I cannot simply use it as bait in some trap, nor would I ask you to risk the actual key, Holmes assured him. But consider, Colonel, we can create a convincing duplicate, something that would pass casual inspection. We can then spread word that you have been forced to move the key to a new hiding place due to the burglary. If we arrange for our enemies to discover where this new hiding place is, they will attempt to steal it, and when they do, we shall be waiting for them. A sound plan, Forsyth admitted, but creating a convincing duplicate of the key will not be easy. The engravings are extraordinarily intricate, the work of a master craftsman. Then we shall find a master craftsman, Holmes declared. Watson, do you recall our acquaintance, Mr. Simmons, the jeweller in Bath? He did excellent work for us on the Baskerville affair some years ago. I do indeed, I replied. He is a man of discretion and considerable skill. Then we shall visit him first thing tomorrow morning, Colonel. Tonight Watson and I will remain here with you. I want to examine the house thoroughly, to understand how these burglars gained entry and what they were searching for. There may be clues they left behind that will tell us more about who sent them. We spent the evening conducting a thorough examination of Forsyth's house. Holmes studied every aspect of the break-in with his usual meticulous attention to detail. The type of tool used to break the window, the pattern of the search through the various rooms, the footprints left in the garden outside. 3 men, he announced after his examination, one of them quite large, judging by the depth of his footprints and the height at which certain books were pulled from the upper shelves. Another was smaller, lighter, possibly the one who actually entered through the window. The third remained outside. Apparently as a lookout, they worked methodically, searching the most obvious hiding places first: desk drawers, bookcases, cabinets. This was not the work of common burglars, Watson. These were professionals, trained in the art of search and theft. Could they have been members of the Black Lotus? I asked. Possibly, though I think not. The Black Lotus operates primarily in London and other major cities. Bath would be outside their usual territory. No, I suspect these were English criminals, hired by someone with knowledge of Forsyth's possession of the key. But who could know of it? Forsyth has kept his secret for 5 years. That is the question, Watson. Who else knew? Pemberton is dead. Sir Henry is dead. The only other persons who might have known would be the others on Pemberton's inner circle. Major Blackwood, Captain Waverley and Colonel Hartley, all now dead or far away, unless what? Holmes, unless Sir Henry shared his knowledge with someone else. A confederate, perhaps, someone he trusted to help him obtain the key once he had secured the cipher. Someone who is now acting independently, pursuing the goal that Sir Henry could not achieve. This thought was deeply troubling, and it preoccupied me as we settled in for the night. Forsyth had prepared rooms for us, and I attempted to sleep. But my mind was too active. Every creak of the old house, every whisper of wind against the windows caused me to start and reach for my revolver. But the night passed without incident, and dawn found us all safe. If somewhat weary, after breakfast, Holmes and I walked into the centre of Bath to visit Mr. Simmons, the jeweller. His shop was a small but elegant establishment on Milsom Street, and the man himself was a portly, cheerful fellow with nimble fingers and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Mr. Holmes. Dr. Watson, he exclaimed as we entered. What a pleasure to see you both again. How may I be of service? Holmes explained what we needed, showing Simmons a rubbing he had made of the bronze key's engravings. The jeweller studied it carefully, his expression growing more serious as he appreciated the complexity of the work. This is extraordinary craftsmanship, he murmured. The symbols are based on ancient Chinese characters. but with modifications that suggest a code or cipher. Creating a duplicate will require considerable time and skill. How long? Holmes asked. At least 3 days. Perhaps 4, and the cost will be substantial. Money is no object and time is of the essence. Can you complete it in 2 days if I pay double your usual rate? Simmons hesitated, then nodded. For you, Mr. Holmes. I shall make the attempt. When do you need it? As soon as possible. Lives may depend upon it. Mr. Simmons, I cannot stress that enough. The jeweller's expression became grave. Then I shall work day and night. Return in 2 days' time, and I shall have your duplicate ready. We left the shop and returned to Forsyth's house, where Holmes spent the remainder of the day making preparations for the trap we would set. He sent telegrams to various contacts, arranged for additional security in the form of several reliable men from a private inquiry agency, and worked with Forsyth to create a plausible story about where the key would supposedly be moved. The local bank has a vault, Holmes explained. We shall spread word that Forsyth, alarmed by the burglary, has decided to place the key in a safe deposit box there. The bank is relatively new and not as secure as the older London institutions. A skilled team could potentially break into the vault after hours. We shall ensure that our enemies learn of this plan and are given the opportunity to act upon it. And when they attempt the break-in, I asked, we shall be waiting for them inside the bank. The duplicate key will be in the safe deposit box. And when they open it, we shall have them. With luck, we can capture them alive and learn who sent them. It was a bold plan and one fraught with risks, but I could see no better alternative. We spent the evening rehearsing our roles and ensuring that every detail was accounted for. The following day, Holmes set his plan in motion. He visited the local public house, where he knew certain gossips and busybodies gathered, and there he let slip, in a carefully staged whisper that was certain to be overheard, that Colonel Forsyth was moving a valuable item to the bank for safekeeping. He described the item as a family heirloom of great worth, giving no specifics but allowing imaginations to fill in the details. By evening, the rumor had spread throughout Bath. Holmes returned to Forsyth's house well satisfied with his work. The trap is baited. Watson, now we must wait for our quarry to take the bait. On the second day, we returned to Mr. Simmons's shop and found him exhausted but triumphant. He presented us with the duplicate key, and even I, who had seen the original, found it difficult to distinguish the copy from the authentic artifact. Magnificent work, Mr. Simmons, Holmes declared, examining the duplicate through his magnifying glass. The detail is extraordinary. Even an expert would be hard-pressed to identify this as a forgery without careful examination. I am pleased you are satisfied. Mr. Holmes, I confess I have never worked on anything quite like this. The symbols have a peculiar quality. They seem to suggest meanings beyond their mere appearance. Indeed they do. Holmes replied cryptically, your skill may well have helped us prevent a disaster of the first magnitude. We returned to Forsyth's house with the duplicate, and Holmes immediately arranged for a very public visit to the bank. Forsyth, accompanied by Holmes and myself, walked through the centre of Bath carrying a wooden box of appropriate size to contain the key. We entered the bank, spoke briefly with the manager, and were shown to the vault, where Forsyth made a great show of placing the box in a safe deposit box. There, Holmes said as we emerged into the street once more, let us see if anyone took notice. We had not long to wait, that very evening. As we sat in Forsyth's parlour, one of the men from the inquiry agency, whom Holmes had positioned to watch the bank, came to report that 3 suspicious individuals had been observed loitering near the building, apparently studying its layout and security arrangements. Excellent, Holmes said, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. They have taken the bait, Watson. Tonight we shall maintain our vigil at the bank. I expect our burglars will strike in the small hours of the morning when the streets are quietest. We must be in position before midnight. At 11 o'clock that evening, Holmes, myself, the bank manager, a nervous little man named Weatherby who had been sworn to secrecy, and 4 sturdy men from the inquiry agency entered the bank through a rear entrance and concealed ourselves within the vault. It was a cramped and uncomfortable space, and the hours of waiting seemed to stretch interminably. But at 2:30 in the morning we heard it, the sound of glass breaking, then the careful footsteps of intruders making their way through the bank. Holmes held up his hand, signaling us to remain absolutely still and silent. The vault door was sturdy and locked, but after several minutes, we heard the scratching of tools against metal. Someone was attempting to pick the lock. The process took nearly half an hour, during which time my heart hammered in my chest and my hand remained firmly gripped around my revolver. Finally, the lock clicked open and the vault door swung inward. 3 figures entered, carrying dark lanterns that cast eerie shadows across the walls. They moved directly to the safe deposit boxes, and one of them produced a set of picks and began working on the lock of the box in which the duplicate key had been placed. "Now," Holmes cried, and we rushed forward. The effect on the intruders was electric. They scattered like startled deer, but the inquiry agents were ready. 2 of the burglars were quickly tackled and subdued, but the third, a tall, lean man with extraordinary quickness, managed to evade capture and bolted for the door. "Watson, with me," Holmes shouted, and we gave chase. The burglar ran through the darkened streets of Bath with Holmes and myself in pursuit. He was fast, but Holmes was faster, and I did my best to keep pace. We chased him through narrow alleys and across moonlit squares, our footsteps echoing off the elegant Georgian facades. Finally, the burglar made a mistake. He turned into a dead-end alley, and finding himself trapped, he turned to face us, drawing a knife from his belt. "Stay back," he snarled in a cultured voice that surprised me. "I'll not be taken alive." "Don't be a fool," Holmes said, breathing heavily but keeping his distance. "You are already caught. Your companions are in custody. Surrender now, and you may save yourself from the worst consequences. You don't understand what you're dealing with." The man replied, "This is bigger than you can possibly imagine. The key is just the beginning. The cipher will reveal such secrets that will shake the empire to its foundations." "Who sent you?" Holmes demanded. "Who hired you to steal the key?" The man laughed bitterly. "You think I would tell you? You think I fear your British justice? I serve a higher purpose, a cause that transcends nations and laws." He lunged forward with his knife, and I had no choice but to fire. My shot took him in the leg, and he fell to the cobblestones with a cry of pain. We rushed forward and secured him, binding his hands and searching him for additional weapons. "You fool!" The man spat as I examined his wound. "You've saved nothing. The wheels are already in motion. Even if you have the key, you'll never stop what's coming. The Vermilion cipher will be decoded, and when it is, the entire rotten structure of British imperialism will—" "That's quite enough," Holmes interrupted. "Save your speeches for the magistrate. Watson, how badly is he injured?" "The bullet passed through the calf muscle," I reported, "painful but not life-threatening. He'll survive to stand trial." We hauled the wounded man back to the bank, where the local police had been summoned and were in the process of arresting the other 2 burglars. Holmes spoke briefly with the senior officer, explaining only that the men had been caught in the act of attempting to rob the bank's vault. "Excellent work, Mr. Holmes," the officer said. "We'll take them into custody and charge them with attempted burglary. They'll face the assizes next month." "I wonder," Holmes said carefully, "if I might speak with them before you transport them to the jail. I have reason to believe they may be connected to other crimes, and I would like to question them while the events are fresh in their minds." The officer readily agreed, and Holmes spent the next hour interrogating the 3 prisoners. I sat nearby, watching as he employed his various techniques, sometimes threatening, sometimes cajoling, always probing for information that might reveal who had hired them. Finally, as dawn was breaking over the city, Holmes emerged from the interrogation room looking grimly satisfied. "What did you learn?" I asked eagerly. "Much, Watson, though not all that I had hoped. The 3 men are members of a radical political organization that calls itself the Brotherhood of the New Dawn. They believe in the overthrow of what they call imperialist tyranny and the establishment of a new world order based on, well, their ideology is confused and contradictory, but the essential point is that they are fanatics. They were hired to steal the key by someone they know only as the Professor, who promised them that the Vermilion cipher would provide the means to strike a devastating blow against the British Empire. The Professor, I repeated. Holmes, surely you don't think that Professor Moriarty is involved? No, Watson. Moriarty died at Reichenbach Falls 3 years ago. I watched him fall into that abyss with my own eyes. But there are others who have adopted his methods, perhaps even his sobriquet. This professor appears to be cut from similar cloth, a mastermind who works through intermediaries, who remains always in the shadows, directing his minions from a position of perfect safety. Did they tell you anything about this professor? His identity? His location? Very little. They received their instructions through a series of coded messages in the personal columns of various newspapers. Payment was made in advance, deposited in a bank account under a false name. They have never met the professor face to face, never even heard his voice. He is a phantom, Watson, as elusive as smoke. Then how do we find him? Holmes smiled thinly. We don't find him, Watson. We make him come to us. We have the cipher. And now we have protected the key. But the professor doesn't know that the key he sought is a fake. If we can convince him that his agents succeeded in stealing it, that they escaped with it before being captured, we may be able to draw him out of hiding. How do we accomplish that? Through carefully planted misinformation. Watson, we shall ensure that certain rumors reach certain ears. We shall create a trail that leads to a location of our choosing. And when the professor comes to claim his prize, we shall be waiting for him. It was an audacious plan, but I had learned to trust Holmes's instincts in such matters. We returned to Forsyth's house and spent the remainder of the morning preparing our strategy. Number the affair of the Vermilion cipher. Number Chapter 8. Conclusion. And so, dear listener, we pause at a most perilous juncture. The trap has been set in Bath. The duplicate key rests in seeming safety. And yet, as the clock strikes midnight in that ancient Georgian city, shadows are gathering, shadows that will soon reveal themselves in ways that neither Holmes nor I could have anticipated. For you see, what transpires in the vault of that provincial bank will prove to be merely the opening gambit in a far more dangerous game. A game orchestrated by a mind so cunning, so patient, so utterly ruthless, that even Sherlock Holmes will find himself questioning whether we have been the hunters, or merely the hunted all along. Chapter 9 awaits you, dear friend, and I give you my solemn word as a gentleman and a physician. What you are about to hear will surpass in both danger and revelation everything that has come before. The professor's game is about to begin in earnest, and the stakes, I hardly dare speak them aloud, may be nothing less than the future of the empire itself. But I shall say no more. To reveal even one additional detail would be to rob you of discoveries that must be experienced in their proper sequence. If you have found yourself gripped by this tale, if you wish to know how Holmes confronts this most formidable adversary, if you wish to learn the shocking truth behind the dragon's identity, then I implore you, subscribe to this channel at once, ring that notification bell with vigor, that you may be immediately alerted when Chapter 9 arrives. And if you would be so kind, leave a like upon this video, for it is your support that enables us to continue bringing these adventures to life. Share this tale with those friends and companions whom you know possess the fortitude for such narratives, for what lies ahead will test not only Holmes's legendary faculties, but the very limits of courage itself. The darkness deepens. Dear listener, the conspiracy reveals new layers of complexity, and the most dangerous confrontation of our entire career approaches with the inevitability of a thunderstorm on a summer's evening. Do not miss what comes next. Chapter 9. The Professor's Game, coming soon. Until then, I remain your faithful chronicler, Dr. John H. Watson.